Welcome to Digital Hospitality. I am your host, Shawn Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. This is an exciting episode. This is part 2 of our series of how to open up a ghost kitchen or virtual brand. This podcast originally aired on the Best Served podcast with Chef Jensen Cummings and was actually a repurposed Clubhouse room. So if you are on Clubhouse, please join the Digital Hospitality Room. If you're not on Clubhouse, please create a profile. We have our weekly meetings on Clubhouse at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Fridays. That is our whole Cali Barbecue Media team. We get together and discuss this week's episode or anything that is on your mind in any way that we can be of service. Please be sure to reach out to me at Shawn P. Walchef on all the social handles. And if you have any questions about the show, enjoy this episode.
Welcome to kind of part 2 of this 3-part series, Virtual and Ghost Kitchen How-To. We're talking end-to-end hospitality, what I like to call the baton handoff. There are so many partners needed internally within a food operations and any third parties, from apps to landlords to technology to drivers to the customer, to be able to make this thing called a virtual and ghost kitchen happen. So that's what we're going to dig into today. We'll have the other moderators introduce themselves so we kind of know who we're going to be hearing from throughout this discussion. Also wanted to kind of start a little bit with just like a quick rundown of some terminology that you're going to be hearing throughout this. It's a whole different level of jargon, as I've had to learn a lot. Different than maybe some of us in the come up with the restaurants. But some of the terminologies, a lot, we're going to be talking third-party delivery apps. That's the DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. We're going to be talking about service and delivery fees a little bit today. You'll hear last mile, which is kind of that solution of getting it from your door to the customer door that the third-party delivery apps do, or a Chow Now with then something like DoorDash Drives that you're housing that yourself will be last mile. Order aggregator will come up. That's bringing all the orders from the different portals that you have into kind of one, maybe 2 tablets instead of 6 or 7, and trying to focus that. KDS, kitchen display system, you'll hear that a little bit as we talk about technology. We'll probably talk about licensee, because the model is a little bit different than a typical lease. It's more of a licensee, and we can touch on that a little bit. And then we'll probably touch on the different types of ghost kitchens, virtual kitchens, dark kitchens, headless restaurants, all the monikers that have been tied to it. But you do have the restaurant kitchen, where you take your restaurant and you might have a burger joint, and you also have a separate brand doing tacos, is the idea of a restaurant kitchen. That would be a ghost kitchen concept. Multi-concept kitchen, several of your brands in one kitchen. So you might be operating 3 or 4 out of one facility that are all yours. Multi-stall kitchen, this can be one operator where you have multiple separate brands, but they run their own line versus multiple on a single line. So that might come up as well. Satellite kitchens, where you might basically have your own commissary that then services and brings food, which Shawn can talk about a little bit. And you might have that model. And then virtual food hall, which Nili can talk about at length from our panel here, where basically you have stalls, outlets of independent operators housed within one kind of hub that will be essentially owned. Difference in food hall is there's no bar, no dining area, carry out and delivery only. So a little bit of terminology. There'll be lots of links in the description of the actual podcast episode, because this stuff is like learning a new language. So just wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit. I want to go ahead and go around the table and have the moderators introduce themselves. Shawn and Kyle were the ones that really brought this together, said, all 3 of us podcast hosts want to collaborate a little bit, and this is a space that we all kind of intersect. So Shawn, please, our fearless leader, tell us a little bit about kind of yourself at a high level, and obviously we'll dig into your ghost kitchen concept specifically once we get into the meat of this thing.
Sure. Thank you, Jensen. I'm going to keep it brief to begin with, because I tend to go long-winded. Go figure, I'm a podcaster. But my name is Shawn Walchef. I'm owner of Cali Barbecue Media. We're a barbecue brand and a media brand in San Diego. We opened in 2008. We had a business for 13 years, full service restaurant and sports bar, 5,700 square feet, 250 guests. We relied on the internet to get known. As we failed along the way, we learned how to use social media marketing to get people to care about what we do. But we never thought it was a good idea to open up another location. Typically, restaurants, if you're successful and you figure out all the hard things that it is to run a profitable business, you typically build a concept and then you go and replicate that concept, and that's how you make more money. We never thought it made sense for us because of the complexities involved with running a restaurant, sports bar, barbecue concept. So we never did open up another location until the pandemic. We expanded to our first ghost kitchen location in downtown San Diego at a place called the Barrio Food Hub. I have Will from Willie Wings. He is on the panel today. He is one of the most impressive operators that I've seen, rapper, entrepreneur, and food media star. He knows how to not only sell incredible food, but he knows how to sell his story. So I'm really excited that he's here. Steven Swiderski is down in the audience, and he is our catering manager. He runs our ghost kitchen location. So we smoke the meat at our master smokehouse. We deliver it down to our what we call friendly ghost kitchen, and we're planning on opening another 9 locations in San Diego County. So there's 3 million people in San Diego. Ghost kitchens present an incredible opportunity to add another location at a reduced cost. So adding another full service restaurant, sports bar, anywhere between 1 to 1.5 million, depending on the location. Kyle can talk more on the real estate side, but this allows us to get into 200 square feet, part of a master commissary smokehouse, under $100,000 to build out. We only have a 12-month commitment at the space that we're in. So it's a really exciting time, but I like what Kyle said on the last panel that we had on Clubhouse and the last podcast that we had. And it's it's easy to get excited about the space. It's easy for me to get excited about the space, but I'm excited because for 13 years we've failed. So we've done so many things wrong operationally, marketing wise, branding wise, figuring out our food, learning the craft of barbecue. So it's easy for us to say it's a great opportunity. That's why I'm excited for Willie from Willie Wings to talk about his essentially his first brick and mortar business, which is Ghost Kitchen. He's going to also be opening up a second one, but I'll let him speak to that. And the last thing I wanted to say is, if you're listening to this on podcast, I know Jensen already published this on his RSS feed, best served podcast. Please become a subscriber, follow their content on social, follow National Restaurant Podcast, which is Kyle's. If you're listening on podcast, please get on Clubhouse. Please download the Clubhouse app. Please get involved in the room. Please raise your hand. Please learn about the speakers. This is podcasting coming alive. It's a real live audience. And the people that are here in this room, I've made so many incredible connections over the last year. I see Zach Oates down in the audience. I see Troy. I see so many people, Claire, that I've heard your story. Ryan, I've heard your story. And that's what's powerful about Clubhouse. It's not just social media where you see a post and it's passive. When you hear something that compels you, you can click on someone's face and then you can follow them on Instagram, send them a DM, follow them on Twitter. So it's a very powerful platform. I invite you guys all to come, and I'm going to shut up because I can't. I could probably keep going on. So thanks, Jensen. Appreciate you, and you leader. So let's not get that mixed up. The amount of work that Jensen has done to put this panel on, Kyle and I are grateful. So thanks, man.
Man, I love the call to action to get people on the Clubhouse. That's what I'm talking about. I appreciate that. Kyle, tell us a little bit, break it down a little bit for kind of your background and where you're coming from, the work that you're working on these days.
Well, I'm following Shawn again, which is always very uncomfortable for me. He's so well spoken, so well put together. Thank you, Jensen, for putting this together. You absolutely are the mastermind behind this group, and I do appreciate that. My name is Kyle Inserra. I've been in the restaurant industry for a really long time as an owner-operator. I've since sold my last restaurant and am now a commercial real estate advisor working strictly with restaurant brands across the country, helping them map out their pipelines for growth. In addition, I am the host of the National Restaurant Owners Podcast. Basically just have restaurant owners and other individuals who professional services, lawyers, other real estate brokers on the show that can provide insight into the industry and kind of just maybe help some people from making some of the same mistakes that we have all made in the process of getting our own concepts off the ground. I am a big fan of Clubhouse. I love the interaction. It reminds me of old school New York sports talk radio. If anybody remembers that Mike and the Mad Dog from back in the day. So I'm a big fan of that. And this is a great topic. I'm looking forward to diving into it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, lots of mistakes made on this panel and so many. And I think that's one of the interesting things that we're navigating is our experts and plenty of expertise here and even in the audience, where you can only be an expert on what's happened in the past, right? And what we're trying to do is build a future. So creating a space for those conversations, the innovation, new voices, new ideas to come to light, to galvanize and to bring people together, I think is what Clubhouse is allowing us the opportunity to do. And then for us to be able to get that onto the podcast so that if timing doesn't work, thousands of people can download that and still be able to interact and engage and get, the learned information that hopefully is gleaned from this. So appreciate that. Nili Poynter, want to have you introduce, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what's going on with your project, Chef Ready.
Hi, yeah. So thank you, Jensen. I appreciate this. So my name is Nili Poynter, and I have not been in the food business for the past 17 years. My husband and I started a data and technology firm, marketing firm in San Francisco. But through the years, we've invested in many restaurants, and we have several friends that were restaurant owners and chefs. And just being in San Francisco and food connoisseurs, just through the years, we started seeing, especially for a few of our friends who own multiple restaurants, as time had gone on, labor costs, were rising and rent was rising, and they were closing down their restaurants one by one. And so just seeing the aftermath of all of this, we started to do some research into ghost kitchens. And, we were researching ones that had been in Europe for some time. And then we saw some that had been brought into the US, and we really wanted to develop a model where it wasn't it wasn't a churn and burn kind of ghost kitchen. It was more about, we wanted to create a company that offered the convenience of what a ghost kitchen offered, but one that truly had greater efficiency. And what we're really focusing on, especially me being from California, is a greener footprint. And we picked a spot in Denver. I was born and raised in Denver. It's definitely a growing market in Denver, and all of our family, my husband and I both have all of our family that's in Denver. And so we wanted to come up with our ghost kitchen concept, and start in Denver and just kind of grow it and see, it's just at its precipice. We're just beginning to open. And so just we're, again, picking Denver as our market and seeing where it will grow to next. So it is a very, with, again, as I'm, rising costs and low foot traffic, this really helps a lot of those restaurateurs and aspiring ones as well, because you have no investment money or key money. And, we're very excited to kind of see how this plays out into the industry and kind of where our brand and our concept will go.
Really appreciate that. Trying to get away from the churn and burn mentality, something that we all know too well. I think we glorify it. I know that I have. And it's time to think about something that's more equitable, profitable, and sustainable for everybody involved through the whole ecosystem. And I think that's part of what we're talking about. We may be talking a lot about technology and different virtual brands and ways to have multiple brands at one time. The undercurrent of all this is always going to be people connecting with people. Right. We are in the relationship business, and no relationship was ever built by a product or service. It is always and will always be people. The products and services create the space, the opportunity, the like-mindedness. And so this is a new arena for that to happen. There's a lot of opportunity. There's also the potential for us to just go right back into the same bad habits and say, well, it's still just a churn and burn restaurant without a dining room, and we need to shift that narrative significantly. So appreciate that. Will, go ahead and jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Multi-talented, obviously, from the hip-hop side to the food side. So break it down. How does that trajectory set in for somebody like you? Give us a little background.
Okay, yeah. So, my name is Will Stewart. I'm part owner of Willie Wings. It's me, myself, my grandmother, and my uncle Jimmy, he's in here as well. Basically, we started 2 years ago. We started out of my grandma's house. We started doing pre-orders straight on every Sunday, and then we were selling out every Sunday. And then from there, I took the idea from going downtown and taking my place downtown and waiting till people got out the club to sell my place. And then I also got spread it word of mouth. And then from there, I went to the club, and then I was in the club cooking as well. Then now we're in the cloud kitchen I use my music a lot to promote my food, which helps for me because social media is big for the cloud kitchens because it's a good way to promote.
I am such a big fan of what you're talking about. The differentiator is not the cheese and the mushrooms that you put on your burger. It's the story that you tell. Shawn is going to hammer that point home again and again throughout this conversation. I think that is so important. And anytime you can differentiate authentically and not have that just be a fake word that you write on the wall to get some buzzworthy attention, but you actually live that life, I think is important. And that's going to be what people are resonating with. And then the food, it better be fire. The food better be good, but food is not what's important. The food is just the proof that you are who you say you are, right? So it's all about, we got to stop selling food and start telling stories. And this is a new way to do that. And we're going to talk about that end-to-end hospitality, because there is this feeling right now, and it makes sense because of the way that we've adopted this technology and this new medium, that it's cold, that there isn't hospitality, that there isn't that face-to-face interaction. And I want to talk a little bit today about how we can bring personality, stories, and hospitality from end to end, so that there's not divisions, that there's not animosity, that everybody working across this ecosystem, this supply chain, to get your wings to your guest is meaningful and impactful, and again, sustainable. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to pose questions to kind of the group. We're going to talk about, again, those baton handoffs, those interactions. How do we cultivate relationships with our landlords? How do we cultivate relationships with our P&Ls, something that us chefs really, really despise? How do we cultivate relationships with drivers, with staff, with the customer, with technology, with multiple tablets that you're trying to manage, with social media? It's a lot. It's overwhelming, absolutely. We're going to unpack some of that. And then definitely check out episode 1 of this series. And we talked a little bit about kind of setting the table for this idea. We also got some pitches from some people talking about their concepts with some feedback. And next week, we're going to it's going to be really, really informative and really, really boring for a lot of us chefs, because we're going to break down all of the numbers. All right, let's get into this. Shawn, you mentioned 13 years at your location, Cali Barbecue. Then you go into the virtual kitchen space, the ghost kitchen space. What were the factors? What were the things that were a catalyst for you to decide to make that decision? You kind of touched on a little bit, but I want to go into it a little bit more, because I want people to understand that there's definitely a lot of opportunity, and you can also get yourself upside down really quickly. Give us some of the factors that you were weighing when you made that decision.
Sure. So one of the statistics that is just eye-opening for me, and I read it in a book, I think it was called Jeff Bezos Letters, which is essentially the shareholder letters that Jeff Bezos writes for Amazon in his presentation to the board. But in that book, it was a statistic of why he opened Amazon, and that was in 1994. He came across a statistic that the web usage was growing by 2,600%. 2,600% web usage in 1994. And it's so easy for us to take the smartphone for granted, and the fact that we're on, iPhone 12 or whatever Android phone you're on, and think about all the apps that have been created on the backs of these giants. But when you look at the statistics and you look at the companies that are getting involved in the ghost kitchen space, when you look at Amazon purchasing a company out of, or a portion of a company out of the UK, when you look at the former Cloud Kitchens, the former Uber executive, Travis Kalanick, is part of Cloud Kitchens, which is another startup. When you know that Google is backing a venture for Kitchens United, it's all numbers based. It's all numbers based on the fact that we're all on our phones more. It's the attention economy. So for us, being in a difficult location, they tell you location, location, location when you're opening up. It's now digital, digital, digital. So where are you on the map? So we have 3 million people in San Diego. My main goal is, how do we become the Amazon Prime of barbecue for San Diego? When somebody thinks that they want barbecue takes time and it takes expertise. So how do we solve that problem? We solve it through digital. And how do we do that? We do that through distribution points. So if we slow smoke the meat every single day, fresh, at our master smokehouse, which we're repurposing our restaurant to turn it into a master smokehouse, we add 10 Old Hickory smokers, We had delivery vehicles so that every single day we're bringing food fresh to downtown San Diego, to North County San Diego, to Central San Diego, to East County San Diego. Then we have distribution points and we're selling the story online. Once we're out of barbecue, we're out of barbecue. But that's where the opportunity is. And the opportunity is because of all these companies and all this attention. You know, the pandemic has only accelerated what we all know and what we knew was happening. People are focused on their phones. They're focused on Uber Eats. They're focused on DoorDash. I mean, Domino's is a tech company. Chipotle is a tech company. And if we don't start thinking like this, it's going to be to our detriment as entrepreneurs, but it's also the competitive advantage. Because we're not a huge company, because we don't have 50 restaurants, we don't have 150, we don't have 1,000 restaurants, we can pivot and we can make connections with people through Clubhouse. I see in the audience is Zach Oates. I literally met Zach Oates. He's the founder of a company called Ovation. It's a technology company that literally provides digital hospitality for our ghost kitchen. So Jensen, your question was, how do we provide that human touch point? We provide that human touch point through technology. Humans are the heart of technology. So Zach Oates, I met through LinkedIn. I had a friend reach out on LinkedIn, somebody I did not know. He went, DM'd my inbox, said, hey, my name is Kevin CEO. This is what I do. This is my story. I said, great, let's get on a Zoom call. We had an incredible conversation. He said, you have to meet the founder of Ovation. It sounds like if you're hosting a podcast called Digital Hospitality, this is literally what the guy sells. I have a conversation with him, and now every time I speak, every time I'm on a podcast, every time I'm on a panel for US Foods, I'm talking about Ovation. Why? Not because Zach's a great guy. He's a phenomenal guy. We just hosted a digital hospitality room yesterday. But I do it because what his tool does, what his technology does, is it allows our staff, Stephen, who's in the audience, to interact with people that order from DoorDash, they order from Grubhub, and they order from Uber Eats. So there's a QR code that goes onto each of those bags. And we all know how to use QR codes now, thankfully, because of the pandemic. But it allows people to tell us how we did, to enter them in to win a $100 gift card every month. So they tell us how they did. If we got it's 5 emojis. If we got the best emoji, then it sends them to Yelp, it sends them to Google, or it sends them to Facebook. So we're getting more reviews. But more importantly, if we didn't do a great job, if we forgot the potato salad, or the brisket was too fatty, or we forgot the soda that goes with the order, or the sweet tea, we can get a text communication with Steven, who's at the shop, and then start to say, hey, we apologize. So now we've literally made that human connection, and it creates an oh shit moment. Those oh shit memorable moments is what technology enables us to do as operators. And it's why I'm so excited about Clubhouse. It's why I'm excited about podcasting. And I'm going to pass the mic because I'm long-winded.
Thanks, Shawn. I appreciate that. I love how impassioned you get, and you go all the way to the end guest every single time. Your line of thought. I appreciate that. And what big takeaway besides everything, but from a practical standpoint, for anybody thinking about how to position their operation, and I'm going to come to Kyle to delve into this a little bit further. You're very much taking 2 of the 4 approaches that we mentioned in these different models. You're taking kind of that satellite model where you've centralized some production, and clearly barbecue takes massive amounts of production, and then are able to take that to your satellite locations to then be able to minimize your footprint in those areas, because real estate is absolutely at a premium. We've talked about occupancy costs for so long. Is it 8%? Is it 10%? These numbers, these industry standards have been exposed as highly vulnerable and not viable for most businesses. And so it's an interesting dynamic when we're thinking about our footprint. So Kyle, I want to come to you. You now have that real estate perspective top of mind for you. What are some of the considerations we need to be making when we're thinking about brick and mortar? Because look, the reality for us chefs is like, that's the dream. The dream is the brick and mortar restaurant, and this other thing, ghost kitchen, feels like it's not what I was, meant to do. It's not what Bourdain told us was what the pirates were supposed to be doing. It's not what we idolize. It's not the way that we came up. So making that shift feels like there's mindset, and then there's some practicality. So considerations between brick and mortar and ghost kitchen. What are you talking people through? What do we need to be thinking about?
That's one of the things that came out of this pandemic that I would love to impress on everybody here is the conversations with your landlord. Okay, I don't think you need to be straightforward, what your expectations are, what you've been through, what you've done through the pandemic, if this is your first restaurant, whatever the story is, and have an idea of, you know, what the vision looks like for you, right? Whether that's like, hey, financially, I think I can do $2 million here. I want to pay X in rent. Or tell them, hey, this is a new concept for me. I'm testing it out. I'd like to be able to, we don't really know where we're going with this pandemic, the labor issue, whatever it is. Be upfront with them and tell them exactly what your needs are and what you want out of the space. If it's you want 2 spaces dedicated for pickup, because you're going to be doing a lot of pickup, you want to make sure your drivers have space. Ask for that in your lease. Things look like they're a complete disaster in the kitchen. Well, ask them to help you build it out and contribute some money towards that. In general, I think the more transparency you have with your landlord, the better the relationship will be. I mean, here in New York, it's notorious how rough some of these landlords are, right? I mean, some of these guys were kicking restaurants out mid-pandemic, but the ones that made it, the ones that are here today to the day when they're reopening all the restaurants in New York City with no restrictions, it's they did it through conversation and in understanding. And frankly, if you are unable to have that, those conversations where you can be who you are and understand both their perspective and they understand your perspective, I think that's ultimately going to be a key to your success if, God forbid, something like this happens again or anything happens. That relationship has been so strenuous for so many years, right? And now it's just time to say, hey, look, man, we both need each other. This pandemic wasn't my fault. It wasn't your fault. We're in a whole new world here, and these are what I need. I need to build out a little extra space for a ghost kitchen. I'm going to need some more BTUs for gas. I'm going to need some more staff parking, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to ask for it and just be clear on exactly what it is that you want. These landlords have, in this time, gotten more savvy. And to sort of harp on Shawn's point, they are looking at you on social media first. They're looking at you to see what you've done, who you are, what your brand is all about, and to see if you'd be a good fit for them. So the conversation and the relationship has gotten more intricate. It's gotten more communicative, I hope, and it's gotten more personal. They want to know that when the shit hits the fan or if you start to struggle, what that looks like, and they're not going to be taking flyers on people who don't, hit the traditional targets in terms of credit, financial viability, and concept. And they also want to know what you do, what you're able to do if things start to go sideways. Are you one of those people who digs in and makes it happen, or are you going to run for the hills? So be prepared for that and just be honest. And in my opinion, just ask for the world and see what comes back to you.
Yeah, Kyle, once again, building those relationships. And Nili, I want to come to you here in a moment to pick that up as somebody who's now in that position as a landlord, navigating that, figuring out what that relationship looks like, what your expectations are. So let's go there. Nili, for you, when you're looking at potential candidates to be part of Chef Ready, what are some of those factors? What are the very practical things that Kyle mentioned? What are some of those intangibles where you just see that they have a vision for something or a talent and just haven't been given the opportunity? Like, what are some of the factors? Because the audience listening, so many of them are saying, I have this idea that I scribbled down on a napkin. It's my family recipe. It's something that's meaningful to me. I want to bring it out. I mean, Will is here, with the whole family, like in the room. And so we want to uplift them and create that opportunity for them and be realistic at the same time, that just because you have a good idea does not mean that you have a viable business. So break down some of the factors for you in consideration, specifically talking to people that would potentially be looking to get into the ghost kitchen space.
Yeah, so it's funny what Kyle was saying, because I think there is a lot of negotiating power, at least from our end. Again, our whole idea and our concept is we do not want to have that revolving door. So when we are looking at tenants, and there's been some that we have passed over, and there's been some that you do a much, or most of them you do a much deeper dive into, is we really want, we view it as more of a partnership. So, and this is something that we always state, is their success is our success, because if they're not succeeding, the cost of having to go through and finding new tenants and getting, them not succeeding, them getting out, just the cost on both parties is exuberant. And so we kind of walk through, we figure, we listen to what their background is. Some of them have had brick and mortars in the past. Some of them currently do. Some of them had to shut some down. And some of them are just ones who've always had all these ideas that wanted to come to the table and say, okay, now I can actually afford. The barrier of entry is so much lower. I can now actually afford to get into the space and see how it works. So, it has to do with what their background is, what their ideas, their plan. It has to do with, a lot of it is just kind of the commitment level from both sides. What are they willing, how do they foresee it? And a big thing is what different type of brands are they looking to do? And some of them they may have like one very specific, menu that they want to start out with, and then they're going to expand from there. But it really is definitely a much deeper dive than I think in how it used to be traditionally, is to where both parties are really interviewing each other and making sure that, they want to succeed. We want them to succeed. Is this the right place for us? And so it's kind of an interview, on, if this was a job hiring on both ends. Um, because again, for us, we feel we provide, and we want to provide a lot more for our tenants in order to make sure that they can do as best or as well as they can do. And again, going back to Kyle's point of, it's all a negotiation, and you should never be afraid to ask. That's also something that we tell our tenants. If there is something that you want to ask for later down the road, if things aren't working and we have to adjust things, that's something that we are 110% open to. um, so, I definitely think it is, for us, we look at on many different levels, just from, exactly what your background is, what you're offering, what you need, what you want, and kind of your pathway into success, and how we can be a good provider for that, and to kind of help, shoot off in trajectory. And also, we want to grow together, because this is our first one and we're planning on opening more. Our goal is that, we want you to be very successful here, so that when we grow and open additional spaces, we want you to come with us. Um,
Yeah, that's great, Neely. And I'll piggyback on that a little bit, because myself, Best Serve, have intimate knowledge of Chef Ready, because we've been working with them since when? Since November, October of this past year. And so what's been interesting in this process, and so many people reach out to me, especially tech companies, people that are looking to get exactly this space. So many startups have reached out that are looking to get into ghost kitchens, because we kind of are almost gatekeepers for the industry a little bit. And so many of them tell me that they're all about the people, they're all about support. And you ask three questions, and it's clear that that's just a facade. And one of the things that challenged Neely, and it's a family-owned operation, brother, sister at the head of it, was we have to truly invest in the people's success. And so many of them are so passionate, have such great talent and great ideas. Yet there's always, for all of us, there's always some part of the immense formula that it takes to have any chance of success in this industry. We're always missing something. And sometimes you're so in it, you're so in the food, that you don't see where you have those weaknesses and vulnerabilities. And so really being able to do that. So the investment that Chef Ready made to have our team, Andrew Parr specifically from our team, really be able to walk through and get these tenants, these young operators or seasoned operators, into a completely new fashion. And I cannot tell you how different it is opening a concept like this than it is a restaurant. And I want to talk about this a little bit and come to Will here in a minute, as somebody who's navigating that currently. Is this isn't just a restaurant with no dining room. Marketing, marketing, marketing. And we have spent so little. I mean, restaurants spending 2-3% of sales on marketing. We're talking, you're in like growth strategy at all times in something like this, and you need to shift those industry standards of P&L. You need to be on the forefront of marketing and storytelling at all times, in a very unique way, in sometimes a very different language. And you're communicating with, for example, I joke about it. I'm very bullish on the adolescent girl and guy of the household are going to be driving decision making around so many food aspects, because they are tech first. they are adopting technology as native. And so it's interesting how we market. So I want to lay that kind of expectation and foundation. Again, it can't be about selling food. It has to be about telling those stories. The food is the vehicle for that connection, that relationship. So Will, for you, again, talk to us a little bit about how you're getting that story out there specifically, because I think it's important. I think it sets an expectation. You talked about the hip hop. That's a unique angle. You talked about the family dynamic. What and how are you marketing that you're seeing some success, again, that end-to-end hospitality, so that everybody along the way, the driver, as he's delivering your food, is listening to your song that then drops off that food. The vibe is strong. It's not animosity. It's the feeling of that we're in this together. How are you kind of cultivating those relationships, Will?
Yeah, well, I'm just really being myself in it all. Like, I got the recipe from my grandmother, gave her the idea about it, and like she basically believed in what I wanted to do. And I felt like it was more at first, like I wanted to push the music, and I just needed to find something to help me market my music. But then it kind of reversed. So like I started just pushing my food more and using my music more as marketing and sharing my story really. And like we started from the ground up. So we started basically from my grandmother's kitchen to this cloud kitchen we're in right now. This is our first like actual real kitchen. So like the story is amazing. It's true. And I feel like everybody like kind like, cause I'm born and raised in San Diego, so I adapt to the people I grew up with, the people in my neighborhood and all that. So it started from inside the community, and then I reached out to the outside. So I just say basically the way I did everything is basically just being myself and just sticking to my passion and following my lane.
Love hearing that. Shawn, want to have you pick up this a little bit into this marketing side of it. We're talking about the relationships. I am most fascinated. Marketing is not just for selling your product. That's what sales and advertising is. Marketing is telling a story. And I think we get that a little bit convoluted sometimes. What I'm interested in, maybe Shawn, if you can pick up how you market, how you present your brand, how you present yourself, how you form a relationship. I want to talk about that driver for a moment, because I think within the industry, we kind of see this animosity building, right? There's Facebook groups where it's like #decline now from driver side. There's people in restaurants that pivoted and we're doing a lot of carry out and delivery, or the ghost kitchen models where they're like, oh, they're just walking in and aren't respecting our space, or they're taking our tips, and it's not helping anybody, especially not that end guest who is looking for bringing your brand into their home. Like, you have got to respect somebody that wants to bring your brand into their home, their most intimate space. That should mean something. And I think we're forgetting that a little bit. So talk about that a little bit. How can we market to improve the relationships, to make sure that the hard work that Will is doing gets to the guests in the most meaningful, impactful way? What can we do there? Where's the opportunity?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I was in a room, and the title of the room was "The Future of Food and Hospitality." And when I started thinking about the question or the name of the room, the future of food and the future of hospitality, it's in our hands. And that's through the smartphone, but it's also from the earth. My obsession with digital hospitality is understanding how do we sell the stories that we're already doing. Brick and mortar businesses and restaurant businesses, we've been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years. I mean, the tavern owner, the bar owner, we've been telling stories, and then those villagers, they go and they tell other people to come down to this tavern or come down to this restaurant. And what I love about Willie and Jimmy, that he's in the room, is that they're all in on the smartphone. We take the smartphone for granted, whether it's an iPhone or whether it's an Android. Like, we're so privileged to have the ability to produce audio, video, written word, and images literally at zero cost, at zero distribution, as long as you have internet access. So if you have internet access for free, you can go shopping today. It's called the App Store. Go shopping. Start downloading those apps. Download the Clubhouse app if you're listening to this on a podcast. Download the Clubhouse app, get involved, claim your profile, come into these rooms, raise your hand, participate, start a room. You can start a room in the digital hospitality room, but start sharing the stories, because it's so much more than a transaction. And back to what I said before is when I say every business needs to be digital first and every business needs to be in the hospitality business, every person, every chef, anyone that's in this clubhouse, you're curious and you're getting involved. It puts you in a different position than so many other people that are taking this technology for granted. If you take the technology for granted and you're not willing to remove the ego, and I have to talk about this more, but I had to get out of my own way to know that I'm a guy in San Diego, a kid that grew up in San Diego that's talking about craft barbecue. I mean, I've been laughed at, and I had to learn how to have tough skin, and I also had to learn how to get over myself to know that I don't have to be the barbecue expert. Gene Goycochea is our pit master, so I share his story. I put him on camera. I go live with him, but I also go live and I tell the Cali barbecue media story because no one's going to tell it the way that I do. And one of the things that that Willie Wings does is that they're bringing people into their community. Willie's doing things for the community when he does a charity event, when he's donating to the homeless. Guess what? He's going live. He's going live on Instagram. He's posting it on TikTok. He's posting it on, you name it, that's where it is. And that's leading to other legacy media opportunities. So, it's a very important conversation. And I think, we need to get out of our own ways and start to utilize the technology to our advantage and share the story of whoever we are. We have people in this room that are in technology. We have people that are in publishing. We have people that are in marketing. Like, even if you're in marketing, you still need to have an Instagram account. You still need to update your profile. If you're working for the company you want to talk about, that company should be on social. They should be sharing things that move you. You should want to reshare them. And if they're not, I would question you to look at the company that you work for. That's it. I'm Shawn. I'll yield the mic.
Kyle, I'm actually gonna skip over you and come back so you don't have to follow Shawn again. He's bringing villagers from 1,000 years ago into the conversation. I don't even know where to go from there. But I'm gonna come back to Kyle because Nili, I want to stay on the driver for a moment, and then Kyle, I want to talk about the end guest and the chef relationship a little bit as we kind of get to the tail end of this room. Nili, you and we have talked a lot about the driver relation. I think it is the biggest opportunity and biggest vulnerability in this space, marketing right there with it. Yet I think that what Chef Ready is planning to do, and we still got to execute it, but planning to do, of really creating hospitality for drivers, that their names, that you have a relationship with them, that they're swagged out with merch just like your staff is, that you if you are long on a ticket, that you hold yourself accountable, that they are not just standing there at a door with blank faces. All of these things that I think are happening and have the potential to happen. Why was that important? What are some of the things that you want people to pay attention to when it comes to kind of the driver and the food operation relationship?
So for us, I think just from witnessing and seeing what has been happening and occurring within the space, it became pretty important to us because we started reaching out to and talking to various drivers and also some other operators and some ghost kitchens as well. And without having that, drivers will, so depending, there are various things that are very important to drivers. And, your food is not going to be delivered if a driver is not going to pick it up. So for us, where the location is there parking at the location? Is it a busy spot? Is it an easy spot to pull over and run in? Are there restrooms for drivers to use? Is the customer support staff that's there, are they able to really communicate well? Are they kind of running on time? Are they owning up to any responsibility of if orders aren't ready or if things are messed up? Is there water or coffee or stuff for the drivers? As Jensen mentioned, swag is something that we also wanted to offer drivers to kind of help them, I guess in turn, because it all lies with them and making them feel like that what they're doing is important, because it is. A lot of drivers that we've spoken to, like, they will simply turn down certain orders if they know that it's coming from a specific building, especially if they've had a very bad experience with that building, or with the restaurant coming out of it or whatnot. So for us, along with many other things, the driver relationship and also making sure that we have very good customer support dealing with the drivers, because it is the key and vital piece of this business outside of marketing as well. But, you don't really have a delivery only virtual kitchen without drivers. So we definitely try to focus in on what would make our building and our brand and our restaurants more appealable to them in order to make them want to continuously come back to pick up orders and do more deliveries.
Yeah, you want them lined up outside your location because they know that there's consistent orders. They know that that your brands have created a strong relationship with their community, with their guests. So that means the potential for tips are going to be higher, right? We also know I'm so big on taking the things that we historically have done really well or do well in restaurants and applying those, deploying them against things we historically have done poorly. And so some of when I see this relationship breakdown, some animosity forming, and kind of feeling some of the tension on both sides of that equation, I wonder, what are we good at? Well, we understand the value, right? After the dishwasher, there's a couple more important roles. I think the expo and food runner, because they have to speak kitchen and front of house. I think the host, because it's the first and last touch that a guest potentially has. Well, you're talking about a driver as a food runner, and they are the last points of interaction that a guest has before they go ahead and eat your food. So making sure that there's hospitality from end to end, there's an opportunity. We have to cultivate that. We cannot just point the finger at some bad actors who have not delivered food and this and that, and you hear some of the horror stories. The reality is there's a lot of good people, especially during a pandemic, that are trying to make ends meet, that want to be a part of something meaningful. If you invest time, effort, thought, and care into them, imagine that. It's reciprocated. That's what we do in hospitality. So apply that same methodology, I think, is key. I see Uncle Jimmy joined us. I'm excited about that. Jimmy and Will, we'll come back to you. But Kyle, I do want to give you that opportunity to touch on the relationship for chef all the way to the end consumer. Shawn has mentioned the smartphone multiple times. I think we're all in on that, yet sometimes still we're a little bit Luddites. We don't quite understand the technology. We struggle with it a little bit. And so, for chefs, when we're talking about making things with our hands, we're like, yeah, but if you just make the food, if you build it, they will come mentality has been exposed. I don't think that was ever true. Just make great food and people will come, but it definitely isn't true anymore. So I'm interested in that dynamic. And I want to the relationship that we form when that food shows up is important. And so one of the things I've said to a lot of chefs is everyone's using a QR code now. Shawn mentioned that. Put a QR code on your to-go food and do a little plating demo video that they can take it out of the to-go box and plate it themselves because you did it deconstructed. Can you create a video that says, hey, we, so grateful for your order, appreciate you getting this DoorDash. It means so much to us. And hey, if you're ever able to order directly from us through our Chow Now and Last Mile, we'd be eternally grateful. If not, please just continue to support local businesses. You imagine the impact that can have. I want to touch on that. Kyle, I don't know that there's a question there, just a bunch of rants that you now have to unpack, but get into it. Relationship, chefs, customer, through technology. What can we do?
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack there, but two things that I'm a big fan of that have sort of emerged through this whole thing and are going to be more important as we move forward are chefs as their brand. I think one of the things that I love to see were these chefs who were like, hey, you know what, we're going to make our special tonight here on Instagram. You'll see in the comments, the list of stuff they need to buy to make our signature rigatoni or whatever the case is. And then, catch us live tonight at 6:00 and we're going to make it together. Things like that, the behind the scenes stuff, the interviews with the vendors, the interviews with the farmers, the interviews with the cocktail mixologists or the spirit vendors, and just tell the story. I think telling the story and lifting that curtain of what's going on behind, your operation and putting it out there. Look, I realize not every chef wants to be in front of a camera. Not every chef wants to be, their picture taken. But you know what? There's something that you can do. Maybe it's a podcast weekly with the chef. Maybe it's recipes, that he'll share some, his dessert recipes. I think being your brand and putting it out there via that sort of here's who we are. We want to give it all away to you. The same mentality that you hear from all these big gurus in regards to social media and what they know is give it away. Show people what you got going on. And the other part of that is delivering on an experience. The pickup and the delivery are so important. Now, I think it's time to throw away the aluminum containers with the clear plastic tops and the cheapest bags you can find. I think it's time to invest in your experience because the reality is, you guys are spending, particularly chefs, right? You're spending so much time sourcing ingredients, developing recipes, training cooks to execute things for, a certain experience for the guest, just to have it handed off to somebody in an aluminum container that gets, crushed by the slightest bit of weight and undoes all that hard work and completely ruins the guest experience the second that it arrives. Put some thought into what you're making, what can be delivered, what can't be delivered, how it's packaged. Are you going to have some branding on there? I hope so. And some sort of call to action in there. Like, hey, catch us this Friday on Instagram. We're going to make our tiramisu or whatever the hell it is, and just keep that conversation going. It used to be, right? Like, it used to be not that long ago that restaurateurs and chefs had those relationships with their guests in the four walls of the restaurant. That relationship now extends beyond those four walls, and thinking that it doesn't, is really short-sighted. It's actually probably more important than ever, and you have the ability to do so through social media, and then through the way that you're delivering your products and how you communicate with them that way.
Yeah, you don't just have 32 tables in your dining room that you can turn 2.5 times on a Thursday night. You have how many tens of thousands of people that are in a 5-mile radius of that location that you can be of service to. Now you can use your smartphone. Shawn, I'm getting good at saying smartphone. Now you can use your smartphone to create table touches, to interact just like you would if you had butts and seats like we are so used to having. So, and Jimmy and Will, I want to come to you. I want to throw a couple of things out there too as an opportunity I see with every operation, especially in this virtual and ghost kitchen model that Kyle kind of touched on. Every single brand, every single food operation has to be in CPG, consumer packaged goods. You have to create versatility within revenue streams, and you're creating brand awareness and staying top of mind. If your wing sauce is always in somebody's fridge or pantry, every time they look at it, they're reminded, I need some wings, right? Every time that they bring friends over for a cookout, as that's starting to happen again, somebody's reminded, and people love introducing their friends and family to new experiences. So you have to create that memorable moment beyond that one transaction. Content creates an opportunity to do that, I think, as well. You need to be in cooking classes, right? You need to create multiple revenue streams because you need to be diversified so that you're always top of mind, that you can always, right, the upsell, again, something we're good at. In the restaurant industry, apps and desserts is where you actually make money. In cocktails, your entrees, a lot of times those are loss leaders for you or barely make a margin. You have to make sure that you're diversified, and the ability to upsell in a new model is going to be important. So Jimmy and Will, Jimmy, maybe you jump in and speak to us a little bit. But I'm interested for you guys, like frozen bags of wings. I need to see it. I want to see it. I want to see that wing sauce and all the variants going to people. I want you to be able to do the Super Bowl party IG live, how to curated by Willie's Wings. Like, these are the things I think are interesting. So Jimmy, please jump in. Will, please jump in. Love to hear from the two of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Shawn and Kyle, they really hit it on point with the technology and the branding. We're living in a technology-driven world right now, and because of this business, this cloud kitchen business, these ghost kitchens, it's all about technology. It's all about the data. So if you don't collect your data, though, in the future, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to retarget market, to recycle your marketing. 20 years ago, we didn't have this type of technology. 20 years ago, I was selling millions of records for Warner Brothers and Universal. And we knew that this time will come when we will have our smartphones right in the palm of our hands to distribute as fast as we can possibly can at a low price. And before we was doing traditional marketing, which is the ads on TV, billboards, street teams, flyers, print, and all that. But now with today's world, we have these apps, just like Shawn said earlier, that you can download some of these apps and produce your own content really with no cost. And because of that, you're a content producer. And when becoming a content producer, you're putting your brand out there as you speak live. Like now, when you see these cooks, they're in a kitchen, just like myself or William. My mom looked at us like, why are we always on a computer or the cell phones or the smartphones? And it's because we're producing content as we go. We're engaging with our followers, our fan base. We're making new music to go with our new boneless wing brand. And we're doing this over and over and over again. And the more we do that, we get to collect that data. That data is very important to us. It's important to our business, and it's important to the future of our marketing strategy. So we like to include a lot of these components. There's a lot of moving components that when it goes into marketing, digital marketing. Back in the days, we used to call it online marketing. Now it's social media marketing. And you can't be afraid of buying ads on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So the strategy with that is like you have to produce as much content as possible, and most importantly, engage with mostly everybody that's on there, because you may have like 7,000 followers, but how many are you reaching? So there's a certain point, there's a threshold that which is called machine learning. Now, machine learning is a big part of what's going on now, which is what Uber is doing, and is what other marketing companies are doing, because there's not people behind the computer trying to find in your geographic area who's using their smartphone to go to Uber Eats or DoorDash. Their machine learning technology behind it, the Uber engineers has created a very, very sophisticated um, strategy for this. So, and by doing this though, it's machine learning. And when they do that, we know in each zip code within a 15-mile radius, 5-mile radius, they know that these are the people that's ordering at least about 2-3 times a week on Uber. They know what they want before they even pick up their phone to order. So it's at the end of the day, as a business for a cloud kitchen, you have to have your own data, and you have to collect that. We started off 6 months prior before opening the doors, February 12th. We did hardcore marketing online, meaning Facebook and Instagram. I'm from the old school where we do both online and street. So we have street marketing, which is our street team, which was Will. Will go to all the clubs and do pop-ups. He was perfect for the setup of grassroots marketing. That was the street push. Now comes the digital push. The digital push was very important though, because now we can reach people at a faster pace, at a cheaper cost, and we're getting um, business to customer relationships quickly, fast. So to distribute our content is so much better than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago was the old school way, just took so long and took forever. Now it's acceptable to pick up your phone and record yourself and just talk. That's what real people want to see, real people. And instead of a big $1 million advertisement ad, people don't want to go for that anymore, especially the millennials and the younger generation, because this younger generation are so smart, they don't want to go for the fake advertisement anymore, like we'll see with Carl's Jr. or the other advertisement ads. We want to see real people just advertise right there in real time on the on their favorite digital platform.
Who, Jimmy? Man, that was special. I appreciate that. Everything that you just said. My ears are buzzing for sure. A couple things to unpack from that. Number one, I love that you went this old school, new school approach where basically Will was out there like hustling mixtapes, like being able to get out there and connect with the people and bring that brand directly to the people, while still understanding that also people are all over all of these different channels. And here's the punchline for everybody, because I hear this from a lot of operators, from a lot of chefs, from a lot of people in that food startup mode. Digital advertising works. The end. It works. It has worked, it's working, and it will continue to work if you know how to work it, right? And that comes to the strategy, it comes to the deployment of it, it comes down to the creative of it. All of these things play a role in it. It works because they'll often hear like, yeah, we did a couple Facebook ads and it didn't really work for us, so we're not going to do it anymore. You didn't actually work it. You didn't actually spend the time to understand the medium to be able to then communicate in that way that actually lands for the audiences that we know are there. So make sure you understand that it works. All right. And appreciate that. All right, we're going to wrap up pretty soon. Neely, I do want to come to you because now you are in the unique position of having this strong marketing background and kind of that San Francisco, Silicon Valley tech marketing, kind of navigating those spaces, and then now being in the wild, wild west of food, which can be scary as hell. And again, a lot of opportunity. It's a land grab a little bit right now. So we're trying to like navigate that. But want to let everybody know again, a lot was discussed today. There's going to be resources and links that you can find. So bestservedpodcast.com on Anchor or anywhere that you get your podcasts at noon Eastern time this upcoming Thursday. This recording will be available and you'll be able to kind of siphon all of these superpowers that the panel have brought to the forefront for sure. So make sure you get yourself on that. Also on there, you'll find part one of this series where we did the Ghost Kitchen launch party, and this upcoming Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we will be back on Clubhouse for part 3 of this mini series. Shawn and Kyle and myself and a few others to break down some of the numbers, the cost, what is actually the barrier of entry, as Nili had mentioned. So, and then I'll give all the panelists just a moment to kind of let us know where you can find them, because there's a wealth of information resources, and everybody on here is so willing and happy to have somebody DM them and be able to support, because we're all about building that community and building a future that is better for this industry and the individuals that commit themselves to it. So Nili, last thoughts maybe on some marketing things. I think Shawn, Kyle, Jimmy, everybody like really hit a lot of great points home. Anything you'd like to add, giving us that marketing perspective?
Yeah, so it's funny just listening to Jimmy. So our marketing company that we have in San Francisco that we've been running for years. I mean, we actually are. There was one point where our company was all data scientists, and all they did was build machine learning, where we collected all the data for our clients. Where they just kind of ran through so many algorithms as to figuring out exactly to what, exactly what the consumer wants, what they eat, what they drink, what they look like. I mean, it can become so detailed as to the data you collect. So data collecting is extremely important, and it is something that for these ghost kitchens, in order to succeed, I will say it is all about marketing, marketing, marketing. And a lot of what we do today, which we will be helping our tenants with our space, but also with our digital company in San Francisco. A lot of what we do is all, the majority of our marketing now has all shifted. I mean, we still have we've built out a whole bunch of machine learning and have our own algorithms that we do that to kind of see through and shift through the data in order to figure out who our best consumer is and who we want to target market for every single thing that our products are. But a lot of it is through social media, right? So the kind of biggest players now is, whether it's Facebook or it's Google, and Facebook owning Instagram and all the others. So, I do just want to piggyback on kind of what they've all said, in the sense of marketing is huge, and it is probably the biggest thing that a ghost kitchen needs to focus on and spend a lot of time on. And when you're also looking, if you're looking to go into a ghost kitchen, that is something that you want to ask them and see if they'll partner with you in terms of helping you. How can, they need to participate in their own marketing, but what is that ghost kitchen doing in turn to help you also build your brand? So I do think that marketing is kind of at the forefront and is huge in this space.
Appreciate that. And again, thinking about marketing, thinking about even the data as the ability to cultivate that community. I think that's going to be an important aspect of it, because sometimes the pushback from hospitality people is like, that feels cold, that feels calculated, that feels manipulative. And the reality of like, look, we've always been doing this. We have regulars. We literally branded the people that are part of our community. Do we have data on them? Yeah. I know their birthday. I know their name. I know their dog's name. I know what they like to eat. I know what they like to drink. I know the last place they went on vacation. This is what we're deploying. If your intent is good, if you understand the medium of social, of marketing, of the smartphone, you have an opportunity to connect in, again, more than the 32 tables you have in your dining room. So I want to echo that for sure. All right, I want to go around the horn with anybody and kind of find out where people can connect with you. I think we learned a lot today. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, get everyone on to the rest of the business of their day. But where can we find you, follow up? Because I'm sure lots of people have follow-up questions, would like to connect, would like to learn from you, would like to buy that mixtape, whatever it is. So we'll go around the horn and connect with everybody. Will, Jimmy, for you guys, best place to connect with you all. And obviously, if we're in San Diego, to get some wings. But even on the social side, the digital side, to learn from you guys, where's the best place to connect?
The best place you can find us is on Instagram, our website, willywings.com. All our social medias it's all Willy Wings. So Willy Wings with a Z.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And another thing too, though, if anybody wants to call or text me directly, feel free. Number is 619-820-7779. And that's one of the good things about technology is like when you text me, I'm gonna reply right back.
Appreciate that. It's, Kyle and Shawn actually do some rooms where it's like the art of the DM slide. And I think now, there's access. You have access like never before. Again, if you do have access to the internet, I don't want to overlook people that do not have that. So obviously there is a barrier. Yet once and if you're able to overcome that barrier, you have access to whomever has an opportunity to support you and who that you can support. So appreciate that. Nili, best place to connect with you and Chef Ready. If somebody is interested in what you're doing, if somebody is in the Denver area and is looking to get into a virtual kitchen model, best places to connect with you.
Yeah, so our website is chefready.com. You can follow us or connect with us on Instagram, which is Chef Ready Kitchens. You can also email me at neely@chefready.com. And then, my number as well, because I want to make sure I give it out because Jimmy gave out his. It's 415-850-4043. So yeah, if you want to call or text, we'll make sure that we'll get in contact with you as well if you are planning or wanting to potentially look at a ghost kitchen in Denver. And we will be or hoping to expand as well. So those locations will be, we will make sure to list those as soon as we get them. Thank you.
Here we go. Maybe somebody's got the real estate connection. We'll have to ping Kyle back. I know you had to run on that front because who knows? You're going to need one of these Chef Readies in your community at some point. So it's all about those connections. Shawn, for you, best place to connect and, any parting thoughts as well from you before we wrap up here.
Sure, I'm going to take Jimmy's lead. 619-993-0230. That's my cell. And I love the fact that you gave out your cell, Jimmy. That's so powerful. And Nili, thanks for sharing as well. And Willie, I've really enjoyed the panel. I've been enjoying Clubhouse, like I've said 600 times. Best place to connect with me is at Shawn P. Walchef. So SHAWN, P middle initial and last name WALCHEF. Connect with me on Instagram. You can on Clubhouse. It's so cool because it's an interactive platform. So if you're listening to this on podcast, like I said before, please get on Clubhouse, because if I find you on another platform, guess what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you to get on Clubhouse because I've met so many incredible people that are down in the room that didn't get a chance to share. Troy, Aaron, Josh, he's got the party cone on, Claire, Stover, Joe, Phyllis is going to be a podcast guest. Josh is going to be on, Corey, Laura. I truly appreciate you guys being in the room, and this is where hospitality comes to life. I mean, it's coming to life on the smartphone, and I'm just grateful, Jensen, for you and your team. I love the fact that you have your team here on every call, the work that you guys are doing at Best Served Podcast. Please follow their club room. We also have a club room called Digital Hospitality. That's the name of our podcast. The club room is called Digital. Please check those out. And the last thing I'll say is stay curious, get involved, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Appreciate that. Great way to wrap for us. I always want people to go to bestservedpodcast.com and check out so many of the articles that we're publishing from people at every level and every facet of the industry, because we are truly committed to amplify the worth and work of those who feed their community. And there's so many more voices that need to be brought into the narrative, and we are committed to that. Absolutely. Corey, who's in the room, Sophie, who's in the room, that the team is is 100% in on the future of this industry, and we have a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of opportunity, especially when we have great rooms like this. And tag us if you're on TikTok at Best Served Podcast, if you're on Instagram at Best Served Podcast, if you're on Twitter at Best Served Pod. Tag us and stuff. We love engaging and interacting. It's so important. It can be scary to start making and putting out content, and who's going to care, and is it good enough? I care. It's good enough. Tag us in it, and we will help amplify the message and the work that you are doing. So thanks to Nili Poynter, Jimmy, Will, Shawn, Kyle, everybody who joined in, everyone who's listening on the podcast. And we'll end it there. Thank you all so much for the work that you do. And have a great rest of your day. Cheers.